let's go. Dream Team is back.
Welcome to another episode of the Extra Mile podcast today. It's episode number 6. Last time we had Marvin here in the show. Today it's again just Puria and myself. And we have a lot of great stuff prepared for you today.
Oh yeah. So first off, so good to see you, Tilman.
Great to see you, Puria. It's Saturday when we are recording this podcast. I'm very grateful for the day. A great start into the weekend. I'm actually flying off to San Francisco tonight. I'm super looking forward. What are your plans for the weekend?
Yeah. First off, awesome. So I wish you a pleasant trip, Tilman. Hope everything goes on smoothly. As always, I hope also the jet lag doesn't hit too hard, but I think with your good habits,
Never.
It shouldn't be. Cool. Yeah, maybe you can share some guidance there as well for others how to avoid jet lag. And when it comes to my plans for this week, it's still like as a kid who was born in Iran, I'm still like following the news of my country of birth and a country of my origin. And I will go on a demonstration in the afternoon, so supporting the people in Iran. And I will be also in Munich, by the way, on the 14th of February. There is the big demonstration. And maybe we can meet there before. We go for an ice bath and then I go to the demonstration to be in the right state. And so this is the plan. And then other than that, just enjoying going out and also a bit of developing on 2 projects right now. So one of them is one thing I could show you live this week when we met in person. Can't unveil more yet here, but I hope like in the coming weeks. And the other one is the 3rd Udemy course. So also things are happening there. And I also got a very cool, exciting news around Udemy I want to share with you today.
Super looking forward to that. And since you went a bit more in detail, and by the way, I'm of course very aware and sorry for what's happening in Iran. I'm your friends and family and all the people there in Iran. And it's great that you actually do whatever you can here in your cycle of influence and at least create awareness. When you are here in Munich, I will be still in San Francisco, but we should do this ice bath at least one time this year.
Definitely.
In San Francisco, we actually have a company event from OpenAI, but I'm also going to attend a conference and I enjoy being in the city, connecting with it. So we have prepared a great agenda for you today with overall 5 themes, but as it's always the case in the Extra Mile, we go into different topics as well. So number 1, Puria, you have some AI news to share for us today. Then also I will go into ways that I'm using AI in my day-to-day work and life. I will also go deeper into mindset mastery, which is the first phase of a framework which I developed. And ultimately, Puria, I think you have some news to share.
So basically what happened for me is I now moved out of AWS, and this was something that was pre-planned. So already few months ago in October where I made the decision, and I'm going actually with a lot of gratitude, and I'm super thankful for all the colleagues down to the different teams I worked with, but also from the leadership. And I'm very thankful for that. Now beautiful to see how much support there was for my decision. And now I'm really looking forward. And Tim and I also looked up Stephen Covey's principles, which you recommended one of the last episodes. And one part was the recreation. And I really look at this as a new phase of recreation for myself. And to take several risks and to really follow a new path. And hopefully I can tell more about like the details. One aspect is definitely Udemy and being an AI instructor. I'm fully committed to that. And I'm really excited also to see the feedback from different students, and also that this is really working on a international level. So I can really reach out people throughout the globe, and I could never imagine that. I mean, I was hoping for it, but now seeing this happen is super cool. And now I keep pushing, I keep preparing, recording, and hopefully helping as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I think this is really aligned with your purpose, speaking about Principle 2, or the purpose as you create it, as you define it now, reaching people, and it's so accessible. I mean, basically anyone, anywhere in the world can access those Udemy courses because they are quite cheap. and you deliver high quality content there, giving people the opportunity to upskill themselves in AI. So this is incredibly purposeful and meaningful, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Tilman. And I also see it that way. I mean, the price tag doesn't define the value behind it. And also for me personally, right now the motivation is to reach and help as many people as possible. So I think like as of this stage, it would be way too early like to think about, no, my course should have this price or that price. And one cool news also I actually received from Udemy is that they have now upgraded the Agent Core course to Udemy Business. And with that, students from all enterprises who already have the subscription can now really find the course and sign up like for them then for free.
Wonderful.
And it's amazing. Like I now saw I had, you could say, roughly 280 students over 2 or 3 months. And now just in 3 days, I got over 50 new students. And this is due to the power of Udemy Business. And this is so cool. And this pushes me even further. And when I saw like these notifications popping up, I was just stunned and I had a big smile on my face. And I was like, yes, okay, now even further, even pushing further and
Nice.
Yeah, keep going on.
So call out to all the enterprise people out there. You have now access through Udemy Business if your company uses Udemy and to Puria's course. I mean, this is amazing, and this is also such a quality seal that you received there. And I remember, I think last time in the episode with Marvin, you were saying at some point in your life, it was really a dream for you to get inside of AWS, to become that solutions architect that is kind of consulting and helping some of the most advanced software and technology companies here in Germany and EMEA. But then now you are ready for this next step, for this next evolution. And it's beautiful to see how you continue to create your, to create your life. And now is the next step and the next level. And I know you are also building some kind of business in the context of AI and Agentic, but also something very useful for people. And I'm really looking forward to the moment in the next weeks when you're going to reveal this.
Thank you so much, Tilman. Yeah, this is really very beautiful to hear and very supportive. And as you know, the beginnings are always like the tricky part until you really share it to the public. And I'm super thankful for that. And this is one of the things that keeps me pushing.
I mean, you were leading the AI initiative in our software and technology segment, and you let this go to pursue your next big dream. And it is something I think that is very inspiring to a lot of people. And I'm very, very glad to hear that it's already getting so much traction. And I'm sure that it's going to get a lot of traction. Now, final question on this. Is there anything else you want to share regarding your departure from AWS?
Yes, few things. So first off, I was super happy to see really the level of support, because typically you could expect that some people are disappointed and would strongly disagree with your decision and would even not understand that I would take such a step. And I would say like on a very high average, it was completely the opposite. So I received a lot of support, and even like on the weekend. So I departed on Friday, wrote my goodbye email to the whole team, and then Saturday morning I received a WhatsApp from one of the leadership members, and this is someone who is super busy, and I saw this and I was like, man, like this is such a high level of gratitude towards your team, and that he took the initiative, wrote me. I was super happy, super grateful. And this is not just one single data point. So this happened on so many occasions. And even like goodbye messages from the team and so many things, so many beautiful stories happened. And with that, I also don't have the feeling that the chapter is gone forever, because the people will stay and the connections will stay. And for example, our connection is staying like independent of where we are working. And I think this is one of the best things that AWS facilitated for me, like in the last 3.5 years.
Beautiful. I'm always reflecting so much when I hear you say this, and I'm sure the listeners are doing that as well. So again, congratulations, Puria, for your ambitious step, and now being the Udemy instructor and being that entrepreneur, and we are looking forward to hearing more about that in the next weeks. With that, I'm now very curious about all the AI news that you have to share, because a lot happened in the last 7 days.
Oh yeah, as always, like this weeks of AI updates are just so fast and so many different things happen at the same time. So what about, let's say, we start with what happened actually to how we develop software. So I think last year we all were used to vibe coding, leveraging different type of tools, using natural language to generate the code, and then having an agent who can manipulate multiple files in your IDE, connect to sources, for example, via MCP. So we saw this trend that you have MCP servers for documentation. So your coding agent could, for example, look up what happened on OpenAI, where their model updates, where their API updates, or what happened in AWS, are there new services, how do their APIs behave? Or how can I create infrastructure as a code? Because this is also a crucial part of your code creation, right? So it's not just front end and back end. We saw this evolving, improving, and then I would say like end of last year, you could see almost every software engineer have this in their tool stack. Mm-hmm. And now this whole thing gets even more crazy. So we then had like few folks who used CLI approaches in their terminal and then used, for example, tools. One gentleman here. Well, tools like tmux to have multiple sessions in parallel. And this was kind of, drilled down to this terminal-only CLI experience. But now what we are seeing is we are seeing this at scale. So you don't need to configure that anymore like in your own CLI setup. We have now dedicated tools like the Codex desktop app, which really helps you to work with multiple agents simultaneously and also helps you to steer your own attention. So if one agent is done, you get a notification, you get a sound effect, so you can really see, okay, here I need to do something, maybe review or approve certain steps. And this is now becoming an industry pattern. And this also is not just a pattern, so this is now the new way of working also for engineers. So this is the next phase. And Andrej Karpathy, who kind of introduced vibe coding as a term into the community, now is bringing the new term, which is agentic engineering. So now we are working with multiple agents and we are observing them. And this is a cool new pattern. And this brings a lot of new opportunities because now we really are not just in theory like the manager of AI agents, we really are, because this is how we are going to develop the code. And with that, we kind of are the head of software development for multiple agents. And this is now replicated through multiple software engineers. So this increases the output of a company massively. Now, people might say, this sounds great, but I don't believe this is going to be the case, for example, for my team. And they are also right, because on the other hand, if the code generated by the agent isn't prompted correctly, and prompting is not only about prompt best practices, it's really about the ideas you bring in as a human. So it's not just about, hey, solve that. For example, let's take the Agent Core course I built. If you start from scratch and tell the agent, hey, build an Agent Core architecture and deploy it, it will make some mistakes. But if you really know there are specific components like runtime, like gateway, memory, and so on, you can really steer it. You can really define what you want, what you also know, and also help the agent to avoid making mistakes because it doesn't know everything. The world outside is so big, so many moving pieces. Even with MCP servers and so on, the concepts are very complex. So you need also your own intelligence to help, achieve much better results. So this is kind of the conceptual side of things. But the other side is also like the software coming out. So the code coming out, it needs to be reviewed because also the agent's attention is scoped. So the agent is looking at very specific files. It doesn't know all files always at any time. So you should have a good understanding of software architecture. What are good software architecture patterns? And even knowing them and telling your agent can improve your software quality.
If I may just ask something, or what about an agent that is very good at this, reviewing the code frequently with some engineering standards?
Absolutely. That's an amazing pattern. And this can really help you to achieve that as an autonomous loop. Mm-hmm. And this is a very important point because if you don't have that in place, so either by the agent or by a human, mm-hmm. you will have a lot of new technical debt through mm-hmm. this code that is generated. Mm-hmm. And this will become very expensive. And there is like one metaphor. So the barrier of code development or software engineering is now much lower or very low. But the cost of ownership is still there. You can't remove that part. So you still own the code. You're responsible for it. You need to be able to maintain it, even if you don't change the lines of code anymore or your agent is. If the code is messy, your agent will take longer to work inside it, to clean it up. So you will even confuse the agent. And I really like the idea with the refactoring agent helping on top to keep everything clean.
Yeah, I guess we can think of the entire software development lifecycle. What are the different functions and how can I automate these different functions? Either on a hook basis that reacts whenever a certain event happens, for example, before a release, do a code review, or maybe on a time schedule basis, once per day, check for security vulnerabilities or check for code quality.
Puria, it's a great idea.
I just got this really thinking of the whole software development lifecycle because I've also been heavily using Codex in the last few days.
Yeah, no, I really love the ideas. And I also really like what you said in terms of hooks and scheduling. So we had like hooks in several solutions. I think Kiro was one of the first ones, which had this hook pattern where you could define the hooks. Now, for example, we see also the scheduling option inside Codex. This is really brilliant. So you could think of automating your day-to-day business tasks like information retrieval, looking up your emails, calendars, and so on. But also like software tasks, what you exactly said, right? Like whatever we did yesterday, review it again, rethink it, find bugs, improve the architecture. And this becomes a habit for your AI agent because we are also talking about human habits, but we can apply the same techniques also to our AI agents, and this will improve the outcome and the value.
This is great. I have my habit list every day that I check, giving success habits to the AI agent, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, no matter who creates the content or the software, it's always about the value, right? So if we can increase the value, I would say this is always a good KPI to navigate through all the noise that we have. And if habits can improve it, that's amazing. Let's just think about what are these habits.
You know what I think is a beautiful thing now, since software gets so accessible and so easy to build, software builders they kind of have to focus more and more on the user value. So it's not anymore about thinking about how can I lock users in or something like this. No, it doesn't work in this time. It's really focusing only on the customer value, building something useful, building something open, which is compatible with all the other tools. And then customers are going to stay with the solution. And I think that's just a beautiful thing because now builders, I think the best builders can focus on the best software, the most useful things. It's not anymore the companies that create the greatest lock-in and then become the most powerful and then do a lot of advertisement. Of course, scale still matters and reaching people in different ways. But I think the idea of the customer value, it is as accessible as never before. And this is a great thing because now anyone can build very useful software. And customers are going to stick to it when it's useful, when it's fair, when it's open enough.
I think this is an important point. And also, how can we actually become even better at that? So last week was really cool with Marvin. So he really showed like how much they care about their customers, how they really try to understand, okay, for a classical German Sachbearbeiter working on processes, what are the struggles they have? And one point he said was, okay, they are not like tech savvy. They don't care about latest model releases, but they would benefit from it. So this was one aspect they detected. And I think like we should always have this feedback loop from the customers, of course, in conversations, but also like whatever channels they pick, it might be an email, might be a feature directly in your product. How can we collect that data and automatically already create new features for them, new ideas for them, and then let them try it? So to really accelerate this cycle of how we are actually moving towards the customers, trying to help them. And they might be also wrong, right? We shouldn't like always replicate everything, but we should really clearly listen to them and use this as a chance now to create this customer centric value creation for them. And observation I also had like on X was someone showed for the app how they could now create a world map view in a very beautiful globe rendering. And they could develop it now in one day. Maybe previously, 1 or 2 years ago, this might have taken several weeks. Then it's a huge investment. But now the investment is much lower. So you can also much easier, make the decision to say, okay, now we built this for our customers because it takes us less time.
So speaking about that, and then I let you go back to the AI updates and news. I think two things. So first of all, in Lumina OS, we have a feedback feature where users can provide feedback. Now, every day automatically, Codex actually checks this and even creates a proposal how this could be built and evaluates the feedback, the idea, and also describes what are the dependencies. And another thing is, and this is part of what I will speak about later, the ways in which I used AI in the last days, is I actually did a deep research in my GitHub repository with ChatGPT and asked, you are doing a workshop, an innovation workshop about Lumina OS, come up with some new feature ideas. And then it created a workshop report for me. And there are incredibly inspiring things in there. But Puria, back to you now.
Yeah, I really like the pattern that you just described. So maybe a question to that. So would you say, especially that you highlighted that it should, think of that it's a workshop format. Would you say that this made a significant difference because it had to simulate a kind of a workshop experience?
So I asked it to create an output as if we had a workshop. But so I didn't test both possibilities. But I think it's important that you highlight this because, so by the way in which I prompted, maybe I prompted it to be more creative and to consider different perspectives. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this could be. I was just thinking, like, maybe putting like the AI into specific scenarios, from which also work well for us humans. We can achieve much better results. So it's a cool pattern. I'm going to try it out.
And of course, highlighting the deep research feature in ChatGPT, which can connect with the GitHub connector and really look into the repository. So it's kind of the best of different worlds combined.
Yeah, and I think like something you can really set up just in a few minutes, right? I mean, assuming like you have the connector already, which also doesn't take super long, and then the value you get out of this might have been also like several weeks in a classical world with all the alignments, all the preparations.
So let me go deeper into some AI, co-working with AI best practices in a moment. But yeah, I'm very curious about other updates that you have.
Yeah, let's do that. So we had the agentic engineering announcements, and then what we also saw was like the whole hype around Claude Bot. Then it was renamed to several other names. So we had Claude Bot, then we had, I think, Moldbot, then we had OpenClaw. I think this is not a stable name for it. And one thing which was really cool about it is, and Tilman, you and I also tried it out once it came out, and there are very cool benefits about it. So one aspect is that you can directly connect, for example, your phone via a messenger application to your OpenClaw bot that you run on an instance. So the instance can be your laptop. This is not recommended. So typically people get an additional machine. The Mac Minis are very popular right now to run these instances. And then they can access several tools. So you could use your operation system tools like, for example, Apple Notes to write down stuff and memorize it. But you can also connect it to your browser, any sorts of MCP servers that come into your mind. So you can make it very powerful. And then once you're outside, you can just message, for example, via WhatsApp, hey, OpenClaw, do this and that for me on my machine, which is running. So this makes it super powerful. And the hype was crazy. Like, I think now we're around 150,000 GitHub stars. So kind of everyone got into it, tried it out. And as this is like an open source project created just by one person who vibe coded this, we shouldn't forget like how this thing was created, right? So there will be mistakes. There are high risks to it. And there are also several issues now popping up. So one of them is there is the Claw Hub. So this is the place where you can get, for example, skills and prompts for your OpenClaw instance that you build, your agent. And now the analysis by several cybersecurity companies like Koi or Cisco, they actually found out that 12% of the skills are malicious. So, and it's not obvious. So don't think like, okay, you open up the skill and you read through it and you would see, okay, they tried to copy my whole disk. No, it's not that obvious. So what they do is they define, for example, several libraries that you need to download as a prerequisite. And one of these libraries is not actually where it should be hosted. It's on another server. And then they can infiltrate the code they want and then start to steal your credentials. So there were cases where, for example, even crypto wallet credentials were stolen and people had financial loss. So this is kind of not to be underestimated. So this happened, and with that, now we are in a state where we should really be careful. So, we shouldn't like stop and not touch new technology. This would be too anxious, but also we shouldn't be too fast. So we should really look into the details, try to understand. Even with the help of your agents, you can let it analyze the skills and try to understand what you're actually connecting. And there is another thing that also popped up. Some of these instances you can also modify it to be publicly available. And then you can put an off layer on top. Now, some of these off layers are misconfigured. It's actually, so out of these public instances, it's 93%. So this is a very high number. It's too high. And people can bypass these instances and get into them. So again, also a big risk, right? And this is kind of what we see in terms of data points, but I would also like to ask you, Tilman, like, what is your view on it? Also, like in terms of, decision-making, when to get into it, where to be careful.
Yeah. So first of all, I also bought my Mac Mini, but the last days were quite long. So I copied the GitHub repo and I kind of got started on my laptop, but I didn't get my Mac Mini started yet. But this is something quite up on my priority list. I'm extremely cautious about the security risk that you just mentioned. I think oftentimes when something like this with OpenClaw happens, I think that two things or three things happen. First of all, the power of one idea, which kind of hits the nerve, and how this can go viral, it's just massive. I think this is one insight, that there are these really scalable things that customers are kind of waiting for, like 150,000 GitHub stars. People saw this and say, I want to try this, I need this. It's really cool, the idea that I think he's Austrian, that he came up with. But also, we learn so much because this technology is now out there. People are starting to use it. I think a whole new market is kind of opening. So we can think of a lot of business models that are related to that because it hits a nerve, it hits a need. But then also asking ourselves, okay, how can we use the feedback that we get there maybe to build something more solid out of this? Or what are the learnings there? And how can now companies build something more profound from this, which is open source, which is a bit wild west. Yeah. And then it comes back also to the responsibility of the individual, putting the security guardrails into place, not giving it access to everything, and just not sandbox environments or some isolated folders and maybe a separate account. So being cautious there, it comes back again to the responsibility of the individual. And all those cybersecurity related topics, it's not anymore that the IT takes care of it or it's just going to be fine. No, I think this becomes a key responsibility of each of us. Just same as responsible AI, ethical AI becomes a key responsibility of each of us, security as well.
Yeah, I think this is a good framework. So to keep the awareness for us continuously, and also like what you said, this opens up new business models.
Yeah.
While you were saying, I was thinking, what are potential patterns where we can learn from this? So one pattern can be that we say, okay, people love this idea of there is an agent running somewhere, but you can always access it via a messenger app. Mm-hmm. Like the idea of what should be one interface that we should always have. The other point is also we see now people are demanding that they want to have agents, which they can always access. This is the interface, but which can even work 24 hours. So this is like the charm of having your dedicated Mac Mini and then it's running. So when designing our products, we should keep that in mind. I think these are super strong signals.
Yeah, and now I was also thinking a lot of the movie Her. I watched it years ago, so What about programming my AI girlfriend that I can now chat with in WhatsApp? Okay, which characteristics would I give her? No, but I think so. In this case, it's a personal assistant, which is really which we can communicate with anytime with natural language, which is doing things on our behalf. It feels like it feels so real. It just gives a sense of the impact of this AI technology.
Yeah, some said it's already AGI.
It makes it feasible, you know, makes it more feasible. I mean, it's the same with ChatGPT. It was just for a very small group of people who were very tech affine, who were able to work with AI. Most people didn't understand it. Now, almost anyone in the world has the opportunity to understand AI. Billions of people are using it. It's common sense now. We really democratized AI. And I think with each of these technology leaps and these new use cases, technology gets democratized, gets into the hands of many instead of just a small proportion of people. It gives opportunities to many people. It can enhance the life of a lot of people. Yeah. So these are just some thoughts that were going through my mind in the last weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the case, and we have to reflect and also remember ourselves like where we are now, because the pace of the last few years is so high, and just looking what is happening around us. This is also, by the way, a good segue to what we also see in terms of business numbers. So this is not my main focus, but still I'm looking at like how the markets are evolving. And one thing that I recognize is that we had now a strong drop when it comes to SaaS companies. So it's evaluated around 24 billions. And how I am interpreting it, reading also different ways on how people are seeing what is happening. I mean, one signal is, all right, people are now anxious, shareholders are anxious investing in SaaS companies, and they think, okay, AI might replace many of the capabilities. And now the question is this just a short-term effect or a long-term effect? And I think the domain expertise that these SaaS companies have, you can't actually replace that. And also the transparency and the observability that they provide us as human users, you can't replace that by AI. And you don't want to replace that by AI. Just think of, for example, Snowflake or Databricks with their data warehouse solutions. You want to have access to this data still as a human, because you want to have a structure where data is stored into. And just relying on AI memorizing everything and then keeping that as the main brain or memory, this is risky for us humans, because still we can't really understand what is going on in the neural networks. And this might also not be the best pattern to do that, or the most efficient way to do that. So by that, in a nutshell, I would say we definitely will need these SaaS companies. The way they are consumed will definitely change. We will have different ways of interfaces and ways to communicate. We are seeing that already with direct integrations, into your chat experiences, because it makes it much easier for the end customer. But the whole value of these companies will stay.
So you were mentioning a few big logos and really fundamental or core technologies also in the AI space. So I absolutely agree. I also think there are millions of software companies out there. I think software companies need to transform now, and they need to transform fast. I think this is a general pattern. They need to, 5x, 10x their speed of delivering or developing software, becoming AI native in their software development, and also maybe becoming more open to be compatible with different AI platforms. So anyway, I think we clearly see a shift in the software market. And there will be a lot shifting in the next years. And, organizational transformation projects, they used to take months or years. And we are in a situation now where companies really need to move fast, to transform fast, which is, I think, also challenging for a lot of the companies out there. I don't have an answer to that, but I think it's challenging. And it requires a lot of leadership to do this transformation, to be able to leverage the competency, the experience, the domain expertise that they have. But while they have it, they need to leverage it. And this is only by becoming, I would say, AI native in a way. Either in a way they architect their software or in the way they work, or ideally both.
Yeah. This is actually a good, way forward. Also, like how to react on this. And I think like we can apply this to enterprises, but as well to startups. I mean, startups were always very fast moving, but I think even now startups have to be much faster than they have been previously. So also the barrier to create a startup is now much lower. Yeah. And with that, the competition scenario is also much higher. So with that, you really need to be on top of things to create something interesting and valuable for your customers at the end.
I think this is already a great segue to mindset, but it's not. Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah.
I will speak about that still later. Is there anything else in the context of AI releases you want to share?
Yeah. Let me see. So we had the most important items I wanted to share for today. I mean, of course, there were also new model releases to highlight. A few of them which happened almost like in the same timeline. We had, we have the new OpenAI Codex 5.3. There is the Opus 4.6 by Anthropic, and there was also a new open source model, the Kimi. So we can see the release cycles keep really on a high frequency. And I think it's also cool to dive deeper a bit into what these new announcements mean. And, maybe I can take the first step with the models. So I could test all of them, and you can definitely see there is an increase in terms of accuracy another time again. And we can also see like the price optimization over all models is moving on and on. So we can really confidently forecast that the price of AI model consumption will go down also in the next years, which is really great from a consumer perspective, because with your subscriptions, you will have more token consumption. And as an app developer, it will also become, you could say, cheaper for you to, to host your agents and to create agentic products. So this is amazing. And then each of these models have also some caveats. So for example, with Codex, I saw you have now also the option, while the agent is executing a plan, have this steering while the plan is being executed to change the plan, and the agent can still execute well. So while it's even coding. So this makes it even more flexible for you, and you don't have to wait like for a longer period until you can give feedback again. And you also don't need to interrupt your agent, because this was a pattern until now. You had to interrupt, say, hey, I want this. And then the agent had to rearrange again. So I think this is a cool change also now. And this is model specific. So it's not just the orchestration layer.
And I know you've been using Codex a lot in the last days. Any other experiences you want to share?
Yeah, happy to do that. So I tried out now Codex roughly for a week. And previously I tried out different IDEs and I would say agentic editors, because now we have also like the differentiation we have to make. So we have, I would say, at least 3 pillars. So we have the CLI, there you can install your agentic experiences. Then you have IDEs, which are agentic first. So we had, for example, Kiro, which is an IDE, and then you have the agentic capabilities in there. And then inside Kiro or Visual Studio, or for example, Anti-Gravity, you can install extensions on top. So you can add even more agents as a chatbot. And then the third pillar, which is now the new pattern, and this also leads to agentic engineering. You have now this agentic editor. So there, and this is something what I really like about Codex, you have on the left side your projects, and you can open multiple projects at once. So you're not bound into a single project. So this is the first big advantage. Then you could say, okay, then you can actually split your front-end and back-end into 2 different projects and repositories. And you, for example, if you open a new project, not forced to have one big monorepo where front-end and back-end are in the same structure. Now you can also easily separate it. And then you can work simultaneously on both of them. So you can define multiple threads in your front-end, and each thread is one agent. Multiple threads in your back-end, each thread is an agent. So you can now have like, I don't know, 6 to 10 agents working simultaneously. And for you as a user, it's just a chat. It's just another chat thread. On the other hand, previously we had like these CLI terminals if we wanted to have this multi-agentic experience. So this is really cool about it. And one thing I also saw, like in comparison, of Codex to other tools is it really breaks it down to the most important points for you. So the code is highlighted very well. So you just see the lines of code that have been changed. The text that you get is very concise. So I don't even need to prompt it to be concise. It is already concise. And I really like that, because one of the things with vibe coding or agentic engineering is that we have to read a lot as a human if you take it seriously. And this can become a tough task. So I really like that this is narrowed down very well. And also you have always the option inside Codex itself to open a terminal. So you can run your own scripts. You can run your commands to deploy your infrastructure. You can configure environment variables. So this makes you very flexible, but you always can also jump into a full IDE view if needed. So with that, one last thing I also recognized is that you also get automatically notifications and sound notifications, so visually and with the sound. And with that, you always know when you have to interact again with your agent. And this even helps you, because sometimes it happened if you didn't proactively configure that with additional libraries in your CLI, an agent was done, but you were doing some research in your browser, and then you came back and maybe 15 minutes of potential agent coding was lost. It's an opportunity which you actually missed. And now with this interaction and the notifications, this works much better.
Wow, I'm impressed. I prompted you with this question and you gave an overall review of the Codex app and its features. And so I've been heavily using Codex in the last days, the new Codex app. And yeah, it's just amazing. One of the things just to highlight, it's directing the focus. So you have the different projects and the different chats. You can even work in work trees if you work in teams, or if you work with different agents on a set of features in parallel. So yeah, it's a very useful application. And what also stood out to me is the speed and the enhanced. I think Codex or OpenAI models, they have a big context window in general. And now even consuming less tokens, it really takes a long time until you run into the full context. But since you have those all of those tabs open in a very structured way, it doesn't really lose context as well. And so it's just very reliable at shipping code that works. I'm also using it heavily, of course, for Lumina OS and for the Lumina OS app. Yes. So
Tilman,
with this,
one comment here, maybe before we move on, the work trees is a big topic that you mentioned.
Yes.
So also previously to do that was very difficult. So you had to do a lot of considerations. And now you have like multiple feature branches that are developed for multiple features. And this is also massive. This is really crazy. Like you can have 3 backend features, 3 front-end features all happening simultaneously.
Plus, you can even let it run in Codex in the cloud if you want to, and then you can also access it while you are outside. Speaking about announcements from OpenAI, obviously we also announced the OpenAI Frontier platform last week. So that's an enterprise-focused platform designed for companies to build, deploy, manage fleets of AI agents. And you can think of it like an HR for AI. So it acts as a centralized interface that allows companies to manage, evaluate, and optimize their AI agents, including agents that are built by OpenAI, but including third-party agents as well. And the great thing is that this also includes all the business context. So companies can also connect their CRM data, internal apps, data warehouses, so providing agents with the necessary context there, which you can plug in. And I think this is just also a glimpse of the future of agentic AI working inside of companies. So definitely, if you haven't closely checked it out yet, check out the announcement of OpenAI Frontier. Also as a new, I would say, paradigm of how we can think of agents in enterprises.
Wow, this is massive. Do you know when it will be accessible for early testers? I saw like some big logos already have the pre-access, but maybe like for the broader public.
I mean, on that I can't share details yet, but of course we are working on making this accessible to a lot of customers as quickly as possible, because we see the value for our customers.
Super exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we'll definitely try it out.
So now coming to the next part or section of our episode, I want to speak a bit about the ways in which I've been using AI in the last days. AI as a coworker, AI as an assistant, and let me just go through it. I think I have prepared 6 or 7 different ways, but maybe some more things will come up while I'm telling you this. So the first one is, or number 0 is actually, so I'm using OpenAI Pulse a lot to remind me of things, to automate some tasks. So it surprised me a few times. For example, today I looked into it and it said meetups, AI meetups and hackathons in San Francisco in the next 7 days and other things that you could do in San Francisco, which were actually very useful because ChatGPT knows me so well. So their recommendations from Pulse were just very useful. I think last week I got a notification, best practices for building products AI first. And I also got one time, now here are some sales capabilities for you for your new OpenAI role. So it knows me very well and it actually provides me very useful information. So this is one thing, using OpenAI ChatGPT Pulse. The second thing is this product innovation workshop, which I told you about. So I now connected, I'm using all the connectors in ChatGPT. And these are basically, you can think of very simple connectors that you can also connect with deep research. So it can do a deep research in your GitHub repository, in your Google Drive folder. But you can also think of whole app experiences, of course. But the ones I focused on in the last days were really these connectors. And one of them was this, I connected my GitHub repository of the Lumina OS app, and I asked it to come up with new feature ideas, new innovations, which I then took back to some of my collaborators in Lumina OS. And we are ideating now about it. Which ones do we want to prioritize? Which ones do we want to implement? And of course, they will be again implemented by Codex. So it's a continuous innovation loop, and it's just super, super powerful. Speaking about using deep research, also to prepare this episode, I will go deeper into mindset later. Yes. And I have some recordings of master classes that I gave, of scripts that I gave to my customers, of different contents. And I also did a deep research here in my Google Drive in my Google Drive folders to prepare the episode. But I'm also going to use this as the foundation for blog articles. So this is super effective, and I've been using these kind of things a lot in the last days.
Tilman, one question here, because I think many people might not have had the chance to explore OpenAI Pulse yet. So it was also new for me. Maybe you can also describe how you can access it, how you can set it up. I think this is really valuable.
I mean, it's ChatGPT Pulse, and it's one of those features that is also on the sidebar of your ChatGPT. So I'm not sure which kind of subscription type you need.
Okay.
If it's also accessible to free users, I assume yes, but you have to check it out. But yeah, just check it out. It's in your ChatGPT, and it's able to remind you of things. It's able to proactively do things on your behalf. You can have simple automations there that it reminds you of certain things, that it does some research tasks for you on a regular basis, and it's very useful.
Really
so
cool.
Check out ChatGPT Pulse.
Thanks for highlighting that.
Yes. So another thing which I did is I used Codex a lot, and also for knowledge work. One of the things I automated was accounting. So there is this process going on different websites, downloading invoices, renaming those invoices, then uploading them into the accounting software and allocating them to the correct transaction with the correct booking types. What kind of business expense is this? So I created a skill in Codex, which was actually very fun to do. And it includes all those steps, including all the relevant context. Like you have to go on this website and then you download all of it and then you rename it. And then these are the rules, how you allocate this in the user interface of the accounting software. Now, I tried this out actually 10 days ago, and it didn't work 100% yet. So it got stuck along some steps of the process. But I felt good actually. I thought, okay, now I push the models to the limit, and I just know that with the next model release, this is going to work end to end. And still it has been incredibly useful, because what I then just did, I downloaded all the invoices, like the 200 invoices, just downloaded them. And then I said, okay, rename them and put them into the appropriate folder. And this took me not just hours of work, it just also took me hours, well, it enhanced my focus, because this is such a repetitive task. It was really tiring and annoying, but it's just doing it. And what I also did is I said, so it can do all kinds of things on your behalf on the computer. If you combine it with the Atlas browser, also in the web browser, it's just very powerful. Another skill, now again in the coding context, there is now also a skill which says use the documentation. When you build these agentic features, use the documentation, so you make sure that you always do it in compliance, in according with the OpenAI Agents SDK. So really explore the skills that you have, for example, in Codex. They give you an idea how they can improve your workflows, but they also give you an idea what are skills that you can come up with yourself. And now I also enabled some non-technical users to use skills, and they get familiar with it, and then they start enjoying it, and it opens completely new ideas for them. Other things which I automated in Pulse, I'm subscribed to a lot of really strong AI newsletters, but reading through all the newsletters, it's very hard. So now every morning at 7 a.m., it gives me a summary of the most important updates from my AI newsletters, because it can check my Gmail, it can check the specific label that I have allocated to it. And once per week, it gives me a more holistic summary, a more deep summary of all the important contents, actually Saturday at 7 a.m. before our weekly episode recording. Speaking about email and what I did in the last days, so I have a system where I have certain labels. These are, for example, AI newsletters Prio 2, which I don't read, reports and dashboards from important software, social reminders, invoices, and messages that I send to myself. And I have some filters, so whenever an email comes in, most of them, they automatically get into the archive and into one of those label folders. So once per week, I can look into those label folders and check the information. But when I look at my inbox, it's really clean. It only shows a few important things. Everything else goes automatically into those labeled systems. And this keeps my mind more focused, because I don't have 10 or 20 emails per day, and most of it is kind of useless. At the same time, I am really interested in all the information from the AI newsletters, and this is why I set up this automation with ChatGPT Pulse. Now, if you want to create such a system for yourself, what's the best way to do that? Well, you can just connect Gmail with ChatGPT, and you can ask ChatGPT to come up with a system for you, and to also give you already the email addresses that should be included in the different filters. So you have email address 1, or email address 2, or email address 3, or email address 10. And then you can create that filter, and then creating that system, it will take you, 15 minutes. It's not a half-day project to create your email system. It will take you 15 minutes. Make it 1 hour at max, but then you have a solid system, and it's fun, because you are not working on it alone. You are working on it with a coworker. You are working on this with ChatGPT. So I have more best practices, by the way. Let me give you another best practice that I used.
Let's go.
Let's go. So the next one I wanted to tell you, I already basically told you about. It's creating this podcast brief, but also creating a blog article. And you can think of what are unique things about yourself that you ever created, which you could use. I mean, now we all want to be creators, and I think it's important now in the AI age to be a creator, not just a consumer. So how can you use some things, some knowledge that you ever created, for you to become more and more of a creator? So another thing which I did with AI, in my new role at OpenAI, I have now new customers, and I want to help them in the best possible way to make sure that they are ultimately successful when they use our technology. So to understand them well, for example, I'm using ChatGPT projects with research to understand what are their business goals, their outcomes, and how can we best map our technology to it. And I have these ChatGPT projects. I have Salesforce links, and I have obviously links to specific internal BI dashboards. Now, these are a lot of different pages. a lot. And for me to keep the overview, I actually created an account director navigation dashboard, which gives me the overview and which helps me to, again, to be focused. I have those 5 links which give me immediately the right information about my customer. I don't have to go on the BI dashboard, filter for that customer, and then wait until it loads. I can just click. I can just have one click, and then I already get the information. And even in the process of creating that navigation dashboard, I used AI tools. So I used the ChatGPT Atlas browser, and I told it, now on this page, please always, on this BI dashboard, please always filter for this specific customer. Well, these are the 20 or 30 or however many customers. Filter for those customers and give me that link and save it in your memory. And at the end, it gave me those links. And I just gave it to Codex and then I said, okay, now include those links into the dashboard. So I automated the whole task. So in my way of thinking now, when I go for a coffee, I'm thinking, all right, do I have a task automated right now, which the AI could be doing on my behalf? When I go for the coffee or when I have a conversation with my colleagues, I really try to disconnect from the actions. I really try to disconnect. So AI is doing things on my behalf, and in exchange, I can take some focus time or some time where I'm just breathing or relaxing or taking a break. Like I'm taking breaks more consciously now.
So cool.
Knowing that AI is doing some things on my behalf.
Yeah.
So
maybe a few comments here, Tilman. I'm really excited about the different patterns that you mentioned. And so a few ideas. The first one is, or one thing I also experienced with Atlas, it's really powerful. So for example, recently, because not always you can do everything with infrastructure as a code, right? So there's operational task. And for example, I was configuring something in Clerk. So I wanted to do a very specific way how I wanted to configure my JWT tokens and had like very deep dive questions. And I also didn't know where specific parts were inside Clerk to configure. And previously I would have opened up maybe my AI chat, ChatGPT, and then ask it there, or go to Google and look it up there. But now in the Atlas browser, just being there, I asked it, hey, this is what I want to do. You know where I have to click. And then it guided me through, and I was done in 2 minutes. And this was such a beautiful moment. I was like, oh man, this was so relaxing, and it's done. And I fully understand why. I know where to click. And this saved me a lot of time and a lot of stress. And the other one is to close the loop. Now, think of like these powerful tools. If you would have your OpenClaw session running, and then it can access Atlas, then it can access Codex, it will amplify its capabilities even more. So it becomes the manager of your fleet of agents.
Yeah, 100%. And to your first example, you had this website and you didn't understand the workflow on this website, and you didn't have to switch to another tab or another window to interact with AI. The AI is just in the same window, in the sidebar, and it understands the context, what is happening on that website. You can automate things, but you can also just use it because it understands the context and can give you instructions. So your focus stays there. You don't have to put your focus somewhere else. And I think I'm getting more and more aware of this importance of focus, but also how AI can help us to stay focused, to stay sharp on the task, on the action itself.
Yeah, and this is super important, like how it helps on that regard. Yeah.
So thanks for closing that loop or for giving those additional perspectives. And then now ultimately, regarding software development, I realized again how powerful it is and how also the human AI interaction is powerful. So that we have a lot of internal information at OpenAI. And well, I want to say this, we work in a very AI native way, and things are very dynamic. There is lots of information to digest. So I'm a big fan of listening to things, and I'm a big fan of when I go for a walk, when I go for a run, listening to things. So when I go for a walk, I hear some inspiring things. I don't know, it helps me to think them even further and be creative. So how can I get a podcast basically, or a narrative, which I can listen to from all of this information? And then I used Codex to develop a tool which creates narratives based on any input that I get. That I put in, it builds a narrative. So this could be a long text and a long report. But I'm also going to automate it so that it looks through different channels regularly and summarizes the most relevant content and then creates an audio file out of it. So first of all, I created these narratives where I can listen to a voice, and it was pretty good. Of course, using then the OpenAI text-to-speech SDK. But then I wanted it to be more conversational. So I wanted to have like a podcast episode where one person asks a question and the other person responds. But then I realized, okay, the API doesn't support having multiple voices in one output file as an audio. And then I had this idea, okay, but maybe we can just have a lot of audio files which the app then stitches together. But then I thought, okay, isn't this a very hard task for software to do? Isn't this super complex? But anyway, I asked Codex, can you implement that? And yeah, sure, I can implement that. I asked, isn't this complex? Are you confident you can implement that? He said, yeah, I'm confident. I can build that. And I said, yeah, I want to make this sound like a natural conversations. So I don't know how you hand this over, but make sure it sounds like a natural conversation, not just like some snippets of voices put together. I said, yeah, I can do that. So it built it, and it built it first shot. I had to do one iteration, but I think I instructed something in a strange way. It was pretty much a first shot thing, and now it can generate these type of podcast things for me, which help me learn the things that I want to learn. And of course, the best practices I create for myself, I can now also share them with others.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the result of Tilman's task, you could listen up until here. No, it was us. It's still us.
Exactly. That's my OpenClaw assistant then, doing all of it. Please show up in the podcast. Have my avatar show up in the podcast with Puria. Make it sound supernatural if it was me. Yeah.
This is our Turing test.
Yeah, with all the AI, I appreciate those human moments even more.
Oh, yeah.
To me, they are so augmented. So, these were some of the ways in which I used AI in the last days, I would say.
Thank you so much, Tilman. I think it was more than 6 items, if I calculated correctly. So thank you so much for going the extra mile. So we're still pushing forward. And with that being said, is there anything else you would like to share for this week's episode?
So in one of our last episodes, I announced that I want to share something from my framework. So what are the things that I think are important to consistently achieve results? And this relates to some of the workshops which I offer. By the way, I also want to offer a few more workshops this year, especially in Munich, because it's really a passion and also a purpose thing for me. And these are also some of the principles that you find in my app Lumina OS. So these are 5 steps. And the first one is mindset mastery, then having a clear purpose and direction and mission. And the third one is doing the right things consistently. The fourth one is getting into a flow state more often, getting into a focused state, and organizing yourself better. And the fifth one is about leadership, accountability, and discipline. So in each of the episodes where it's just you and I want to speak about one of those phases. And today I wanted to speak about mindset mastery. It's also when you think of Stephen Covey, the first habit is proactiveness. So realizing I can be proactive about my mindset. I realized that, okay, I'm thinking about the way I'm thinking. Why do I have certain thoughts, and how can why do I have a certain map of the world? Why do I see the world in a certain way, and how can I potentially change it? So how can I have a growth mindset? Realizing that I can actually be flexible about my mindset and it's not fixed. And when I ask people, what do you want? Oftentimes people, they don't even know what they want. And that's in a way, it's risky, and I'm telling you in a moment why. But let's just assume somebody knows what they want. They could say something, I want a family, or I want a house in Spain, or I want to have this job, I want to have this salary, or I want to build this business, or I want to
Ferrari.
I want a Ferrari, or I want to spend more time with my kids. Whatever it is, they want a certain outcome. But what makes them get this outcome are actions, right? But what makes them take those actions are certain thoughts. So where do I focus my thoughts? It really then determines which action I take. But what directs my thoughts? It's really my mindset. So there is something underlying, underneath, which really directs everything else. Now the question is, do I want to just leave this to the coincidence and say, okay, it is how it is? Or do I want to be proactive about it? If this is really the foundation of anything else. So I want to speak about a few ways how you can actually be very proactive about your mindset and kind of reprogram it. And let me say this. Maybe some people think, okay, this is just a kind of a self-help cliche. Maybe there was a time when I was thinking about this, thinking this myself, because I was reading a book and they were speaking about mindset, and I thought, hey, I want clear instructions. I want clear step-by-step guidance. Don't tell me about mindset all the time. And it took me some time to realize it. But once I realized it, I know it's much more powerful than any step-by-step instruction or guidance, because it makes you recreate the right steps in the right moment.
Exactly. And I think like everyone has this. So I had that too. And I know so many people. And sometimes this is also the word mindset is misused by few folks. And this makes it a little bit blurry. So maybe you can also help, like, to, as you said, to make it very concrete so that also people can apply it and win the trust towards this.
So let's make it super concrete. And I will start with 3 ways how you can adjust your mindset, or three ways you can tweak your mindset, I would say. So yeah, let me make it very concrete and actually speak about 3 ways how you can influence your mindset. And the first one is understanding this idea of human needs. And I spoke about this in one of the previous episodes. So there are 6 human needs. We all want certainty. Certainty that we get a certain feeling, certainty that we have certain emotions, certainty that we have food, that we have shelter. So that's certainty, things that we are used to, that we repeatedly want. But we also want variety, which is kind of the opposite of certainty. But this newness, this diversity, we also want this uncertainty. So there is certainty, there is variety. And people also want to feel significant. So this is the third need, the third human need, significance. But people also want love and connection. This is the fourth need. So these are the basic needs. And when these are fulfilled, I think one can live a quite good. But there is something missing, or there might be something missing, especially for those very conscious individuals that are listening to our podcast. You are now wondering, okay, but there must be something else. And yes, this is growth, this need to grow. And if we are honest, everything in the nature must grow. It either grows or eventually dies. Growing. But why do we grow? Because we want to contribute. And this could be contributing to your family, to the society, to nature. So that's the 6th need, the need to contribute. And realizing in my daily actions, in the decisions I take, which needs do I focus on? And I had a conversation with a close friend recently. She was so much focusing on certainty because of a fear. So the fear made her focus on the certainty. But she's been doing this now for years. And she is developing, she has a great mindset. But in some areas, she's maybe a little bit stuck. And realizing this, help her, she must focus now on another need. And which needs she focused, this is very individual, but she was focusing too long on this need of certainty. So that's a great realization. Just to give you a very practical example. For example, when somebody, so let's speak a bit about fulfilling those needs. So everybody has typically 2 or 3 needs they focus on in a period of their life. So the first question you can ask yourself, in the things you do, which needs do you focus on? But then think of your outcomes, what you really want. Where would it make sense to focus on? And in this way, potentially shift that a little bit to focus on different needs. And these needs, they are really the underlying force for all human behavior. So to give you a very practical example, somebody who smokes, let's see how smoking can fulfill those needs. So to that person, probably smoking gives some certainty, the certainty that with a nicotine rush, they get a good feeling for a moment and they get relaxed. What about variety? Maybe they go outside with other smokers, or they go, or they just think of something else which gives them some variety in the moment. What about significance? I think often for a long time, advertisement was kind of illustrating that smoking is something significant. Maybe some people, you get the most beautiful partner and all of this. Maybe some people still think that. And then also maybe it's a moment of connection or love that somebody has for themselves, even though it may also sound controversial, but they take a moment for themselves where they take a break, take a few
100%.
breaths. But
yeah.
So what do you think, on which level can it fulfill those needs? Probably just on a level of 3 or 4 or 5, not on a high level. But if this is the only thing, the only vehicle that can fulfill those needs in this moment, then it gets addictive. It is something that they do continuously. So,
and Tilman, just one comment here. There are so many stories about people who started addictions because of a partner who they loved. So they had like this attraction part, the feeling of significance, and this is this huge driver then into these types of human needs. There was even like famous actors who had this, but also the other aspect, as you said, for some people it's like the only moment which they have for themselves.
Yeah, or exactly as you say, they connect certainty and love and connection to that partner, and then it goes away. So how do they fill that again? Which they want so much, and hopefully they have more helpful vehicles. So what would be actually more helpful vehicles? To me, this is running. When I go for a run, with certainty, I feel great during the process and afterwards. With certainty, there is variety. I have some new ideas, some thoughts during the process and afterwards. I feel significant. I feel cool when I run so fast. I'm connecting with myself. It's showing love to myself that I take this time. It goes into longevity as well. It makes me grow, not just my muscles, but also I can reflect. It makes me mentally grow, or I would say even in all dimensions, body, mind, heart, and spirit. And it enables me to better contribute because I'm more balanced. I'm more in harmony when I go running frequently. So it enhances my ability to contribute as well. So this is, I would say, a positive addiction because I like to do it at least once per 2 days. And because it pays into all of those 6 human needs. And whenever I feel a lack of certainty, and I feel really uncertain, I know when I go for a run, it helps, but it also helps in all those other dimensions, and I just feel better afterwards. So that's about the human needs and how focusing on some of those human needs can really stop somebody from taking the right actions, the right decisions. And just to give another example of that friend, because she was also mentioning Maslow's pyramid. And this is a reason why I don't like this Maslow's pyramid too much. I think that there is it's a great concept, but if I would only think of this Maslow pyramid, somebody could think, yeah, but now I'm really focusing on building this foundation and building this foundation for years and never get to that self-fulfillment. But using this more flexible system, which is, by the way, from Tony Robbins, you can get to those levels you can focus on those levels of growth and contribution anytime, while it's a continuous process and there is flexibility in that system. Think of what you want and then focus on the human needs appropriately. And reflect about those patterns. Where do you have unhelpful habits? And thinking in the system of human needs, why do you do them? What do you try to bring into your life through those unhelpful habits? So this is, I would say, the first component, how you can be really proactive about your mindset, reflecting about those human needs. Do you want to know number 2?
I would. And maybe one more thing, Tilman. I think it always helps to have a quick refresher also for the audience. So it was the Maslow's pyramid, if I'm repeating it correctly. Maybe you can also quickly just describe what it is, because you said it's kind of static, right? So it kind of pushes you just to focus on foundation, and many of the things you can actually already do as a continuous loop of learning, growing, and thinking about the different needs continuously, and not just waiting for certainty to be checked and then move to risking more uncertainty.
Exactly. I think another challenge with that model is, at least the way it was taught to me in school, I was thinking then, okay, in more developed countries like Europe or the US, people are more focusing on self-realization, self-fulfillment, this highest level. And then in other countries that are not so developed, people are more on the foundational layer. which could make me think, okay, they are maybe less conscious and really just focusing on the foundation. And I want a more inclusive model, because all the travels that I did over the last years or decades, they teach me that no matter where in the world, I meet these incredibly conscious human beings, no matter how much wealth they have. So they are actually, if we think of the Maslow's pyramid, in this top layer. And at least the way I learned at that time at school, I was kind of a little bit biased in thinking, although I didn't keep that belief for long, but that people in, I would say, from an infrastructure perspective or from a GDP perspective, in less developed countries, people are less about self-realization, self-fulfillment. And if you look at the average, there might be some truth about this. And this is something we also, maybe we want to improve. So we want to look at this, how can we improve that? But there are so many individuals who are so conscious, who are so developed, who are so creating their life.
Absolutely.
And we can explain this very, very well with this human needs, because maybe they had this realization that they can be proactive about this. No matter what are the circumstances, they realize I can be proactive about this.
Yeah, and I think like both is true at the same time. So on the one hand, if you live in uncertain economical conditions, it can be that the struggle for money takes so much of your focus and time that you don't have the time to think about this. But I have also seen individuals who were in the worst, like you could say, economical state, or it can be also different types of, bad state that you can be in. And they had like their best life because they figured out they are not bound to this currently, from the outside, the certainty that is made for them, the restrictions they have. They can still continuously enjoy their life and follow their needs and have this mindset. And I would say like it can exist in this state, but you can exit it. And the way to exit it can be actually this mental model or this framework, which helps you to get out of it. And there is also one private story from one of my uncles who was in a very bad state for 10 years. So he was a war prisoner, and it was in his 20s. So he was locked up 10 years, potentially the most important years of his life.
Wow.
And this dude is the funniest guy I know. And you would expect he could have like traumas on top of each other, right? And what I learned from him was also like he looked for continuous ways to improve himself. So with his cellmates, he actually told them, hey guys, let's learn English. Let's ask them to give us books to learn English. Let's focus on learning. And then let's focus on having one person each day for cracking jokes. So you're the comedian of the day, and having these frameworks. And today you can't recognize anything in him, like any damage. And I think one thing that helped him was definitely his mental model, his mindset, because he shaped his world no matter where he was. But I think it's a special skill. We need to learn it. And what you said exactly helps us to get there, no matter where we are. Because we can even have a financial, sorry, I'm getting very long, but we can even have a financial strong situation and also have a bad life with the wrong framework, because we could think it's not certain enough yet for me, and then we can't enjoy it.
So it's a perfect segue to the second thing I wanted to speak about, but also just to speak briefly about this idea of gratitude. There are people that seemingly have everything, but they feel miserable because they are not grateful, because they are in their mind don't focus on gratitude. They focus on what are they missing, what do others have that I don't have. And then there are people that seemingly have very little or seemingly have nothing, but they are so happy, they are so grateful, they are so fulfilled. And in that state of fulfillment, they are actually self-realizing themselves and self-realizing their family. And they are so great parents, for example, giving opportunities to their kids because they focus on gratitude, focus on the resourceful states, and thereby contributing to their next generation. So even though they may be struggling on getting enough food, which was a horrible state to be, obviously, and I think which all of us who are listening on this should be thinking of ways how can we create wealth in the entire world, and not people having to struggle with this. But even people in that situation, I think they are out there, they are grateful, they are feeling the gratitude for what they have, and that enables them to contribute, not just to grow themselves and to feel better, but also to contribute to the people who are important for them, who are around them. So I think that's also a good segue now to the second area where you can be proactive about your mindset. And this is this identity, your beliefs, your values. And overall, I would say the map of the world. So how do you see the world? And there are probably some pretty bad things that can happen in one's life. And potentially a person could then live the rest of their life just speaking about that bad story. So continuously repeating that bad story. Okay, those bad things happened, and this is why I am still miserable today. And they would find a lot of people who would continuously say, oh, I'm so sorry, I understand you, I'm so sorry. But what's the alternative? Taking the decision, being proactive and changing the story into, this is something that happened, I cannot change it now, and now I focus on all the beauty that I can have, that I can create, all the contribution that I can have in this world. So it's about the story that you tell about yourself, about the world, which completely changes the way you see the world. And the way you see the world, it changes the way you feel. And the way you feel, it influences the state. And that state changes what you focus on. And you're focusing then on the positive beliefs, on the positive things that can potentially happen, on the positive aspects of the map of the world. So what I want to say here, it's kind of a flywheel, and it's like a self-fulfilling thing. If you focus on good things, more good things will likely come into your life, which reinforces the good beliefs, which reinforces those good themes. And it's a continuous loop, because you will also attract more positive-minded people into your life. Then if, say, somebody would always complain and would just attract other complainers, and then they could meet in the evening and they could spend the whole evening complaining. What is going bad in the world? What is going bad in my life? Oh no, for me it's worse. Oh yeah, it's so horrible. And it's a continuous loop, and they may even find significance in that. Oh no, I have the worst story. I feel more significant. I have the worst story. And they feel good. But is it really something desirable? I think one may even feel good in that moment, but is it really appreciating the life to the fullest extent? I think it's a gift to be in this world. And this gift of being in this world, we should really, not just for ourselves, but also for the contribution that we can have, live the life at its fullest. So now coming back to this idea of the map of the world. So how can I design my map? How can I be proactive about my beliefs? First of all, it's about being honest with yourself. What are maybe some limiting beliefs, some assumptions you have about yourself, about your capabilities, or some assumptions you have about the world, which are just not beneficial and not based on any kind of evidence. Maybe they are based on one experience in one significantly strong emotional moment which happened in the past. And because of that, there is this part inside of yourself, maybe it wants to protect you. Maybe it's controlled by fear. That time it had a good reason, because maybe it was a very painful moment in that moment. But now it's 10 years, 15 years later. Is this behavior still helpful? But to realize that, we first have to reflect about it. We also have to speak out the truth. Okay, yeah, there is something here we may want to address. And this could have been a significant moment. It could also have been repetition. Seeing something continuously again and again and again and again. It could create a belief. Maybe a belief that, let's have a negative example, that somebody grew up in really difficult family circumstances. They could develop the belief that family is something bad. Okay, and because of that, I don't want to have kids. Repeatedly, they experience this pain. And then there is this part inside of themselves that is just making the connection, okay, family equals pain. I want to avoid pain. So realizing that and then working with this, it can ultimately give that person back that freedom of taking the choices based on, I would say, based on the modified map of the world, based off a modified set of beliefs, which is really helpful, in line with what the person really wants. Because maybe what the person really wants is just have love, just have joy, just have a good life. And maybe family would be a good component in that good life. And maybe taking some bold decisions would also be a good component. But there is this experience holding them back from 15 years ago, which is manifested in a belief or programmed in that person in a belief. So a lever here is to be proactive about beliefs. Another lever is to be proactive about values. So what do people typically value? Any idea?
What they typically value? Love.
Yeah.
I would say love.
But what makes somebody value something? Why do
What
people
makes
value
it?
certain things?
Because it's hard to achieve or to get access to.
It could be you are thinking now in different directions. I want to make it very
Yeah.
simple. So
Yeah.
people typically value the things that they had at some point in their life in abundance. They are so
An
used to it
abundance.
because values are
Yeah.
typically something positive. So, but which ones do we prioritize? Something when somebody grew up with an abundance of love, most likely they are used to having love. They want to have lots of love in their life, the feeling of love. It could come from other people, it could come from themselves, but they want to have love. But it could be the opposite, that they never experienced this love in their family. Or I wouldn't say never, this is an extreme, this is probably not true, but they didn't have so much love in their family. Now they really want that so much. They want that so much. And both of this could be extremes because they might focus on the value love too much for one or another reason. So realizing that as well. Why do I value the things I value? And when I think of my goals, what is important in my life, where does it make sense to put emphasis on? And I think there's also this thought of abundance. You can have all of the values can be represented in your life, but what do you focus on more in a certain moment of time? Success is another value. So there are times in my life when I really focus on success, and there are other times in my life where I will focus more on family and so on. So being flexible about those values, realizing why do I value certain values? Maybe there was a time when I had this in abundance. I'm so used to it. I want to have this again. Or maybe there was a lack of this. And when there was a lack of this at some point in my life, then working with this, being proactive about this, taking this to the surface, it's so important because if I'm still trying, if this is still a gap and I'm just trying to fill that gap, it may never be filled because I always want more. But once this comes to my conscious mind, I understand this, speaking out the truth to myself, and there's a lot of self-regulating, self-healing that can then be triggered. And if you realize, okay, this comes back again and again and again, then just get a coach, just get a therapy. If you have a good coach, a good therapy, it can take as few as 1, 2, 3, 5 sessions, and things are completely resolved. So this is also one of the ideas of neuro-linguistic programming, which is one of the things I focused a lot on. And now, ultimately, another component of this part of mindset mastery is the identity. So what's the label you give yourself? Are you an achiever? Are you a loving partner? Or are you a procrastinator? Are you somebody who never gets things done? Or are you somebody who comes from a small town and because of that will never be able to have a conversation with those people? So how do you see yourself? And a great way to test that is you can write down, I am, and think what comes to your mind. Write down all the statements that come to your mind and then be clear, what is something beneficial, what is something not beneficial. And if you think of this big vision that you have for your life, what you want to grow into, the way you want to contribute, who is that person? So think of your best self. What's the identity of your very best self, of your future self, however you want to call it, and make this your identity statement already today. Be that person already today. Every day decide to be that person. And one of the things I do, sometimes I do it when I go for a run, sometimes before or after I meditate, I listen to these statements about my own identity. I also listen to my goals, to my outcomes. So when you ask me, Tilman, what is it that you want? I can give you those 6 priority goals. Boom, I can give them to you. Anytime. Being so clear about that, it of course directs the decisions I take on a day-to-day basis. So this is the second part, the map of the world, and we can even think of more holistic concepts here. For example, the pyramid from Robert Dilts with the 6 levels. Okay, what's the purpose? What's the identity? What are the beliefs? What are the beliefs and values? What are the strategies that somebody has? What are the actions that they typically take? And what is the environment in which they typically are? Which kind of also is a part of this map of the world of a person. So the question is, and then the way a person sees the world, how to change it. and how to change the story of my life. Something miserable that happened, apparently miserable, I would now completely reframe it as the biggest gift that I ever got, because it made me build new skills, new capabilities, take new decisions, and create the life of my dreams. But I got this motivation from there, which is kind of a segue to something else I want to highlight, which comes to motivation. So people could be motivated by a pain they want to avoid and a pleasure they are seeking. So I recently spoke with a dear friend, and her pain she wants to avoid is going back to her home country. She wants to stay in Germany, and for that she needs a job. So oftentimes she directs 80% of her life, or too much of her life, focusing on avoiding that pain, finding a job. And this strategy, it's a strategy, it served her in some way, it brought her to some point, but there are some things which she has wanted for a long time, but which she hasn't achieved yet, which she didn't fully get yet. So I just asked her, okay, what do you actually want? What is the pleasure that you are seeking? Not just the pain you are avoiding, but what do you actually want? And she couldn't give me an answer to that. She was still saying, I don't want to go back there. And realizing that when she connects more with what she really wants and imagines that, visualizes that regularly, then she can develop that power that really pulls her there, that really drives her there to create the lives of her dreams. So this pull and push motivation, avoiding pain versus seeking pleasure. Avoiding pain can be a massive accelerator in some periods of her life. I think of this other friend. She learned perfect German, close to perfect German, in 3 months. She was very good at speaking German in 3 months because her dream was to work in sales in one of the top global companies. She wanted to work in sales. In Germany, it's very beneficial to know German for that. Because of that, she learned German in just 3 months. And she then started a sales position. She did a lot of cold calls. And after just 7 months, she got into one of the most successful top tech companies in the world. And not only because now she had the German language skill, but also because of the person she became in that process. Because of her strong pull motivation, she worked relentlessly on learning German. And now she's in an environment where she's working with some of the smartest people on some of the coolest technical innovations out there, with some of the coolest customers, because of that. So think, what is your pull motivation? What is it? What is the pleasure that you are seeking? So this was the second part.
Yeah, maybe one comment here. I think also one of the benefits of the pull motivation is that you can give yourself kind of the time to develop. Because with push, when there is this urgency, you kind of feel like, oh, if I don't get it now, it's going to be so bad for me. And it's like a lot of pressure. But with the pull motivation, as you're, as you said, super interested towards that goal, and you're also so inspired, for example, with your friend who wanted to learn German to be better in connecting with other people. This is a different type of also prioritization, because it's important but not urgent. But whenever it's important and urgent, this is like something where we want to spend less time and have like this sweet spot of it's important but it's not urgent. So we have the time to develop, and then it can even, in a very good case, become a habit if it fits the current needs we have right now, right? So habits also don't have to stay forever. So we can be flexible of adding and removing habits based on how we want to develop right now.
Thank you, Puria. I love how you brought the concepts together, including these activities. They are important but not urgent. But ideally, they become a habit. And personally, I'm very grateful, for example, that I joined now OpenAI. It has been a dream of me for quite some time. And this was a very clear pull motivation. I could have focused on avoiding pain, but I was really focusing on this pleasure, this thing which I really, really wanted. And then I did all the things that they were not urgent in the moment, but they were important for me. And I worked also relentlessly to get there, and I got there, and it feels great. Honestly, I love working at OpenAI, and because of the culture, the way we work, I would say, and also because of the people, because these are just amazing people, and I'm truly grateful to be one of them working in that organization. And so one of my now closest friends, he made me aware of this this idea. How can I have the biggest impact in what I'm doing right now? And I asked myself this question a lot of times in the last weeks and months. And one of the answers I got, I think, in OpenAI, I can have a really positive impact and a really big impact on my customers directly, but through my customers, also on anyone, and somehow continuing to be part of that mission of building AGI that benefits all of humanity. This is how I personally can have a great impact. And this creates a strong pull motivation for me. I'm ready to prioritize this. I'm ready to put work into this, put dark work into this, extra miles. So finding that motivation for yourself, it's so powerful. Anyway, so this was the second way you can steer your mindset. And the third component is really the state, the emotional state. And probably all of us, we've experienced moments when maybe you knew exactly what to do. You know exactly what is the thing you need to do which brings you there. You knew exactly who you could ask, that message that you could write. But first of all, there could be thoughts holding you back. But overall, it's an emotional state. I feel like feeling weak, feeling like, well, it's a set of beliefs which could hold me back, but it's also just feeling bad. And of course, my emotions and my thoughts, they are interrelated. So if I focus on negative things, I would feel bad, and then I would not take this action. So it's super, super crucial to be in a good state. And I'm sure you also have oftentimes these flow states where everything is just going well and you feel good. Or after a workout, you just feel good, you feel so active and you get things done. You know what to do and you just take action. So this is such an important component because everything else might be in place. But if you are not in the right state, then everything else is also, it discounts everything else. So how can we be in a good state more consistently? So one thing is to be in a good connection with emotions, because sometimes there might be a negative emotion, or I wouldn't label them actually as negative. There might be an emotion of fear. And when I'm in a good connection with it, maybe it is a good hint. Oh, maybe there is something I have been procrastinating for some time, which I should be doing. So sitting with it, listening to it, and then taking decisions based on it. Listening to emotions is very, very helpful. So let's say you have mastered that, or you have a good connection with your emotions. Then being proactive about it, because there are times when it makes sense to listen to certain emotions, but there are also times to be very proactive. Before I go into a meeting with my customers, I want to show up in a certain state. Before I go into a meeting with a team, or when I do a workshop, I want to show up in a certain state. Even when I go to a store, the way I speak with the other person who's on the other side, I want to show up in a good state because I want to make the other person, I just want to increase the energy here. When I speak with other people, I want to be in a good state. So how can I be proactive about this? And one of the most easy concepts is the triad from Tony Robbins. So there are three components that kind of influence your state. One is the physiology. So the way you stand, the way you breathe. I just realized I'm speaking so much, I'm not breathing so much, but my physiology gives me a very good state right now. So what I focus on, obviously. So the physiology, so the way you stand. Secondly, what you focus on. Do you focus on the positive things, on what you want, or do you focus on what you don't want, on the miserable things? And then third, the language. And this comes a lot to your beliefs, your identity, the things you repeatedly, the words you have in your mind. They are so important for how you feel. So when I ask you, how do you feel? And you say, I'm feeling quite okay. Or imagine you would say, I'm feeling fantastic. It makes you feel better. It brings you into a better state. So think about the words that you use for yourself in your mind. Think about the questions you ask yourself and how do they make you feel. So these are the three components of the triad. It's physiology, it's focus, and it's also the language that you use, the words that you use verbally, but also inside of yourself. So there are certain words which I really never use. For example, or a question, I wouldn't ask myself, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? I just wouldn't ask myself that. It's a not helpful question. What I do ask myself oftentimes, what's one more thing I can do to make this a great week? what's one more thing I could do to surprise him or to surprise her? So yesterday night, it was a great week. Yesterday during the daytime, I was thinking, what is one more way I could finish the week strong? So I went to boxing. During boxing, I thought, what's one more thing I could finish it even stronger? So I went to the gym afterwards and to the sauna. And then I thought, what's one more thing? And then I posted a video from my podcast. You can find it on LinkedIn now. Yeah, and I just enjoyed it. So
cool. Yeah. What's one more extra mile?
What's one more extra mile? And I think now it was quite extensive. So these insights about mindset, I think this was an extra mile in itself. But I hope it was helpful for the listeners and inspiring in some way.
For me, it was. And Tilman, like one quick feedback, I would say, look, the thing is always when you talk about mindset, and we said it, like it can be blurry. And I would say, like, if you enter the space in a blurry space, it's also okay. I mean, you can try to learn and improve, but you know how you summarized it, how you conceptualized it. I really like it because these are ways how you can really bring structure into it. And I think shaping mindset is one part of it is also to finding a good structure for yourself and finding, for example, the world map that you mentioned. So to finding the right values for yourself, finding the identity that you aspire. So we have the freedom to define the identities that we seek for. Yes. We have this flexibility, we have this freedom. And it shouldn't be blurry, you know, and the path to it shouldn't be too blurry, but there are also paths that are going to be blurry. That's also part of life. I mean, there is this, we had this hero's journey a few episodes ago, and half of the hero's journey is the uncertain world. You don't know what's over there, but it's also part of it. And even knowing that there will be uncertain parts, that's also okay. Because then,
yes.
Yeah, the winter will come, exactly.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, you didn't. Yeah, exactly. Brings it to the point. I mean, the winter will come. We have the 4 seasons, and therefore we should. And I think Tony Robbins says it always. Like it's like one of the most important learnings we had as a human race that we know. Okay, there are seasons, and this helped us actually to survive. And this type of seasons reappear also in all different life situations.
Yeah, and now if we can speak about survival of just literally surviving, but surviving in this a little bit. How many of you would agree that this world is a bit complex, and there are so many informations out there now, so many possibilities? So how do I survive in this very interesting world? Well, again, realizing that there are 4 seasons, like humans did thousands of years ago. Again, realizing there are different seasons in our lives and being proactive about it. So ultimately, I want to say this. If you now think, okay, Tilman, this sounds great. I want to be more proactive. I want to do more in that direction. There are different things you can do. I think one thing is educate yourself. So I think that most of you that are listening to this, you regularly are learning new things. Maybe you are reading books, listening to books, you are doing some courses. What I oftentimes realize is people don't learn so much about mindset, psychology. So just learn more about psychology. This is one way, educate yourself. But also secondly, sit with yourself, meditate, and develop some habits. First of all, I would say give it the space. So sit with yourself, meditate, but then also develop the habits where you do it proactively. What a lot of people don't see and what I regularly highlight is I oftentimes get up in the morning and do my run. I listen to my goals. I meditate. I've developed all of those habits. I don't eat any sugar because sugar also would affect my emotions and I wouldn't really be in charge in that moment. So there are a lot of things you can be proactive about, but you got to be proactive about, even if it's just prioritizing time for yourself for those things. Because humans have the tendency to stay in comfort zones, to reduce the level of energy that is used in all aspects. So just like a chemical reaction, you have to activate that chemical reaction. And how to activate it? Yeah, you can push yourself to do something again and again and again. Kind of pushing against resistance, and pushing against resistance is important. But come on, make it easier for you, make it juicy. And for that, you develop that motivation, you develop that North Star, something you really want to achieve, which makes it much, much easier to you. And ultimately, I can also encourage you to use Lumina OS. So you can use it even for the first weeks for free. And if you decide to continue to use it, it's super affordable. And it's not just using a software, it's also, I would say, adopting a way of living. So try out Lumina OS.
+1 on
You're
that.
curious how that works. Puria is using
Definitely.
it as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
huge fan, and can only just say how much it helps me to structure and have this kind of also fun way. I mean, to go through your goals, to go through your life, and we also like always want to highlight it's really important that we are kind to ourselves. So even if we are ambitious, doesn't have to mean that we should put us in such an emotional, stressful situation, because being ambitious is something fun. I mean, it's about competition. It's about trying to achieve something where you think like, yeah, I imagined it and now I made it. And that's like what makes life enjoyable, and which makes life also something you want to, look back 10, 20, 30 years later and think, this is what I lived through. This is what I experienced. And sometimes even the best stories are where you failed. I mean, this is then also great because you just went for it. And just being active, executing, I would say this is like something that makes life special. And and going back to Lumina OS, this is something where I find it's a good system to, just have these healthy habits and organizing yourself.
Yeah. So I think it really helps to have a life plan and have to have a certainty about the life plan, but also to really enjoy the journey and to to enhance that skill again and again and again, to enjoy that journey, to make every day well lived. Now, as Tony Robbins would say. I just realized from a very technical start, we now went into very, very deep mindset reflections, which is, I think, one of the beauties of the extra mile. And one of the reasons why people like listening to the extra mile. So if you enjoyed this as well, please follow us. Please give us a comment, give us a like on the different channels. We truly appreciate that.
Thanks for everyone listening up until here. And I can just agree with you, Tilman. This is what makes the extra mile spicy. We got two very exciting ingredients here. And as always, it was a very well spent time. And I really enjoyed the conversation with you. And I wish you a great flight over to San Francisco, an amazing time over there. And also great and powerful start into the next week.
Thank you, Puria. I wish you also an amazing weekend, an amazing week to the audience out there. And I really look forward to our next episode as well.
Oh, yeah. Until next time, when it's about the extra mile. Have a great one.
Until next time, have a great one. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.